Well, here we are in the garage again today because we ran into a bit of a issue this past weekend. So the turn signals, I check them every once in a while just to make sure everything's still working, because you know it's not. They have, at the time, they were stuck on the right hand. I don't know, it sounds like maybe the indicator's moving like it's supposed to, but you can see that whole piece is moving. So we're gonna take the steering wheel off and try to figure out what's going on here. And me and my boy already took the horn button off. There's these holes right here, these little, oh, and if you don't have a little magnetic parts tray, you know, get you one, because they're handy and it'll stick your ratchet to the bottom of it just like it did here. But yeah, you can get these cheap at most places, and you know, it keeps from losing the hardware. But these two small, or I think a 1/4 inch hex on them, that's what holds your horn button on. And then you've got your washer and bolt for the wheel. Sorry, my finger was in the way. But now we've got these, I don't know what kind of fastener, I don't know if it's even going to focus, but it's not an Allen key, it's not a Phillips, it's not anything. I've got these little square-headed attachments. And we're going to try to, I'm going to try to see if that'll work. If not, I might have to make something. Sorry for shaking the video, but. And we'll put the puller on here and see if we can pull this wheel off. I don't know if there's a little indentation in here. I don't know if that means that somebody's had this wheel off before or what the deal is, but you know, I'm going to try to be real careful because it is cracked up a lot, and I really don't want to have to replace a wheel at this point. You know, we're going to go through and we got a lot of interior work to do, but little things like this, we just got to keep it drivable, you know. And I don't understand, I've never had one of these apart, so I guess we'll learn this together. But I don't know why that whole bezel is shifting. Maybe there's some sort of set screw, maybe some tab, I don't know. I guess we'll see when we get tore into it. So I'm gonna try and set this camera up at an angle where you can see the work, and we'll get started. All right, so I was digging around and I found this, which is just like a square head, I guess. It says S1 in the little toolkit, and it fits sort of in there, but I want to try it on a screwdriver so that I don't put too much torque on here and maybe make it worse. So, oh, actually that came right out. So I guess those aren't really in there that tight, so maybe I could have put a Phillips, or not a Phillips, but a flathead in there in the first place. Like I said, I've never had this off, I've never worked on one of these, so I don't really know what to expect on a lot of this stuff. We'll get these out of here, and I don't know if they're supposed to come completely out of this little bracket. I guess this is actually the button that makes contact. Oh, by the way, when you get ready to do something like this, disconnect your battery, because if you don't, as you're bouncing all this stuff around inside of here, the horn's going to be going off like nobody's business. So I guess these are all just some spacers. Make sure you pay attention to the order that they go in. So there's some kind of nylon spacer in here that helps center this up. I guess it's going to properly position your horn button on your steering wheel. So if you put it in there, it's a little crooked, you may have to adjust these because there is some play in these holes here. But I guess there's probably not too much play. Yeah, that was, forget I said that, because it'll screw into the holes and be fine. So There's another little, oh, that is actually a contact for your horn. It's spring loaded, and this one's kind of gummy. Make sure I'm in the frame here. So it's got a little spring loaded end on both sides. So while we've got this part, you can see that side is pretty dirty. We'll just clean all this up. That could be why the horn just barely works, but it could also be why, you know, it could also be the fact that it's 60 years old. So we'll clean that up, and then once we get the wheel off, we'll go ahead and clean that contact as well. And anything else up in there that we can see that might need clean. So now we'll go ahead, there's a hole on the top and bottom that we'll use for the puller. So we'll open that kit up and figure out which one we need to use and try and get that set in here. Pop this wheel off. So since we're pulling from the center here, it's got some kind of steel insert, it looks like. So I don't think we'll incur any damage to the wheel, but we're still going to be careful. I picked this up at Harbor Freight yesterday, and I have not opened it. It's got your typical instructions. Nice little foam piece. But it seems to be pretty inclusive kit. It's got two different adapters here for something. Probably should just go ahead and look in the instructions first. Let's see what those are for. They might be, it just says steering wheel remover set, but steering wheel bolts, 2 cap screws each, snap ring bolts, 1 each. So 5 and 6 are snap ring bolts. It's M14 and 9/16. And gonna be honest with you, I don't have any idea what those are, so we'll carry on. So what we got to do is we got to figure out what our thread pitch is for these, and hopefully we have one here that fits. So I'm gonna try this. That does not. As a coarse thread. What size does it say here? Item 3, that's an M8. Obviously it's not going to be metric on a 62. So we're going to switch over here to the 5/16 fine thread, see if that'll screw in. And that's interesting because it does not. So not sure what to do about that. So we got, wait a second, we've got a 5/16 coarse thread here that I overlooked. There we go. That's the ticket. So just don't overlook like I just did. Never try to just force anything. The threads look clean enough. We'll go ahead and put this, we'll back this out and get it fit on here. Get it backed out to the proper length prior to installing the second bolt, because you won't be able to get it on. And I'm going to do a lot of this with hand tools because I don't want to, I want to be able to feel what's going on. So if I can't thread these in by hand, we got to stop and chase the threads, clean them out. We want to make sure we get as much thread engagement as we can. And you want to make sure that they're pretty even too. You don't want one to be threaded in more than the other and kicking your puller off at an angle. So That looks pretty close. I think actually I need to back this top one out just a little bit in order to even things out here. I'm still down off the center. There we go. Now we made contact with the steering shaft. I'll put a little pressure here, and now I'm going to get a wrench. We'll see if we can get this off here. We might back this off and put a little bit of lubricant inside of this where this is supposed to spin. Just if I see it's not moving, we'll spray some oil in there or something just to get it. The end is supposed to turn while you're turning the shaft of this and tightening it down. That way it's not going to slip off, because this one doesn't have, some of these will have a point on the end of this shaft that's kind of like a live center, you know, lathe, so you can, your input device can turn and the actual contact point is stationary so it doesn't slip off. So I'm going to grab a wrench and then we'll try to turn this off. Alright, so it turns out this is 1/2 inch. Grabbing a wrench. You might be asking yourself, why is he using, you know, a fitting wrench on here? And the answer is because I can't find my 1/2 inch box stand. So this will have to do. So we're going to tighten this up nice and slowly. There, hey, I think it just broke loose. Slide it off here. That was easy enough. Put this on the floor. And now we'll take a look at our, okay, that's exactly what I thought might have happened. We'll get you in here to take a closer look. All right, so there's your switch right there. And there's a little joint that falls into. So I guess this hardware has started to come loose. And so now it's not, you can see it's not engaging this switch. This switch is supposed to flip back and forth, and that's not happening. So I want to go ahead and we're going to unscrew the, oh wow, I might have to put a wrench on there and clean up these threads a bit. There are wrench flats on this so that you can get this out if you can't take it out by hand. Let's see, can I do it left-handed? Uncoordinated. It's coming. Bear with me. And then we'll get I'm gonna switch. There we go. The turn signal stock is off, stick, whatever you call it. So now I'm gonna take out this screw, and we're gonna take a look at everything. Make sure nothing looks broken, damaged, whatever. And then it looks like there's some screws in, well, no, all that's turning together, so I don't really know why. I don't know what holds this mechanism here, so we're gonna try and figure that out too. But then right here you can see this ring. That is where your contact rides. I can't tell if it's just dirt on it or if maybe it had some sort of dielectric grease on it from the factory. I have no idea. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up too. Why does that spin? Is that some sort of, uh-oh, learning together. What is, I'm actually gonna shove that back in there because I don't know. Uh-oh. There we go. I'm guessing there's a wire or something. Actually, there's a bearing in there that's, is that supposed to have that much play? Somebody tell me. Somebody that's worked on these before. Leave a comment and let me know. Let me know what I'm doing, shouldn't be doing, everything. So it looks like we've got a light here for a little bezel. let's keep digging in and see what we can come up with. This is interesting. There's a little detent switch there and a spring. I don't know if you can see that. I guess that's supposed to work when the steering wheel's mounted on and holds pressure on it. Maybe that's supposed to be, I'll bet you that spring is supposed to be on the inside of this. Let's get some picks and some screwdrivers and dig into it a little more. Alright, so I'm going to be honest. I just sat down in this thing for the first time without a steering wheel and it feels weird. So let's take this loose. I need to get a different kind of tripod or something to be able to hold this up. Maybe. Oh, come on. Almost there, I don't know. Alright, so again, difficult. One-handed. And I guess that's it. So there is a lock washer on there. And that turns pretty tight in there, so we'll pop that out. Clean it up, put some grease on it. But put this aside where we won't lose it. And this is actually your mechanism that runs your turn signals. There's a cable, I guess, that runs down through there. Your switch is somewhere up under there, and I'm hoping that I don't get that far into it today. So this is what we gotta get back under control. So I think this works. I'm gonna plug the flasher in, and then I still would really like to know what holds this still, but I don't want to take all this off. So I'm not quite ready for that today, so we'll save that for another video. I am going to clean this ring up with some emery cloth or something, because that's where this little fella, that's where it rides. It's right on here, and it goes back and forth as you turn, and you should be able to use your horn at any time. So it does look like this is just supposed to ride along this spring here, which seems to be in working order. So we'll make sure we get all that lined back up. I don't really know. That must be for the canceling cam, which is supposed to be, yep, right here on the back of the wheel. And I'm not sure how much wear it's supposed to have. It's got a little, but I guess it's got a lot down there. So I'm going to order some parts for this thing, and that'll be one that we put on here. But look at the cracks in the wheel. I guess that's normal. I really hate to get rid of this, but I don't want to lose some of this, you know, the history and the character behind the car. So go ahead and get some of this stuff cleaned up, and then we'll come back to the reassembly. All right, I've got the battery hooked back up, so we'll turn the key on. This is the position it got stuck in, so no matter how much I did anything with the stick, the mechanism just popped off of there. So now if we turn it, so there must be an issue with the switch, because if you go too far, it doesn't come on. You just got to back it off a little bit. So you can still, the flasher's still going. Let's see if is it flashing or not? So it's working back here. It's just the indicator on the dash is not working if you push the switch too far. So that's not, I don't think that's too big of a deal. We can live with that for a while. We'll come back and my indicator works. I've still got it flashing out here, so we're gonna call that good. Now it's time to put a little sandpaper on contacts and put everything back together. I'm gonna disconnect the battery again before I start fooling with this here. All right, so cleaned these up. I just sprayed some brake clean in there to get that gunk out of there. And now what was stuck in there spins nice and easy, so hopefully that'll help. Don't forget your little lock washer. We're going to try to put this in here without dropping it. So we get started on the threads. Make sure you get that on here. I'm going to start a couple threads, maybe. And then I use my screwdriver to push this spring. Maybe I'll pry from the inside. Okay, so that looks like that's seated in there properly. I'll tighten this up and I'll give you a closer look. So this is now I guess it's moving enough. Let's test it. So I think we've got some wear. I don't know if there's any adjustment in this cable, all this stuff, like where this little switch sits in this ball and socket here. It could just be you gotta kind of move it around a little bit, I guess, to see. That should be off, but it's not. So I mean, it's just the tiniest little bit. Maybe the cable's got a little stretch to it. Maybe this, where this socket connection is here, is just wore out. That little piece that goes back and forth in there, it looks like it's built into this. I don't know if maybe it can be replaced. You can get this whole system here with the springs and the screws and the cable. You can get everything. So we're just going to work with this for a while till it just fails, and then figure out what we got to replace. So we've still got some good driving weather left this year, and I'm going to take advantage of it. So now I'm going to disconnect the battery, clean up all these terminals. I did spray some brake cleaner on this, and it cleaned up pretty well. Everything functions properly. I'll probably still hit it with some fine grit sandpaper, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I hit this with some 500 grit. I don't know if you can really tell. Let's bring you in here real quick. Whoa. Anyhow, shined up pretty good. Should make good electrical contact. I really don't know if the grease that's on there is from this bearing or if it was like dielectric grease, but I'm gonna leave it with no grease. And if I have to take it back apart, I will. But until then, we're gonna see how long it lasts. So now what we can do is we can put our selector switch, handle, whatever we want to call it. We can reinstall this. I want to make sure I torque this down as good as I can without damaging the fastener. So now we'll put the wheel back on. I'm going to go ahead and take off the puller. And I noticed on this wheel, or on this steering shaft, there's a little notch on the top of it. And there is a notch on the top of this. So I'm going to try to line those up as best I can. Maybe. Okay, right about there. And it's not wanting to go for some reason. I haven't really. Why would that be? Is there something holding it? I don't know. I guess the center of this is supposed to push on that bearing, maybe. Preloaded? Maybe that's why the bearing looks like it's loose. But I don't want to tighten it up until I get it on the splines. And it's definitely not on the splines. So, oh, there we go. Now it's on the splines. I guess you just gotta wiggle it just right. And it looks like I might be off like a notch or so. But my wheels are straight. And my steering wheel's straight. So I'm gonna go with it as is. I'm gonna proceed with caution. And I'm gonna put this washer on here. And it actually is like a, or maybe it's not supposed to be, but it looks like it's a cone washer. I'll put that down. I'm gonna put this nut back on here, and then we're slowly gonna tighten this up. Why is that? I'm not sure. I might pull that off. Inspect these threads. I don't want to damage anything. Let's see if we can get it run down. So we've got something going on here. Looks like there's some dirt. I want to grab a wire brush, clean up these threads, and then we'll see if we can get that to go on there. But it's still got one spot right there it doesn't like. I don't really understand. I guess there's a spot right there on the side of the threads that looks a bit mashed. And I don't think I have anything to chase that with. so we'll stop and figure something out. So I tried to clean them up a little bit, but it's still just sticking. So we're gonna run this on kind of gently, and just, if it feels like it's binding up real bad, stop. But so far it's just, this feels tight. I don't know if this is some sort of like locking hardware, or if I think it was just some slight damage on those threads. So this is not really recommended, okay, but I don't have a way to clean them up. Let's try this again. I'm going to try and line up the indicator marks. There we go, it's seated partially. So now we'll take this and try again. Once we get the wheel seated, then we'll work on reinstalling like the horn button, horn contactors, I guess, and all that stuff. Should probably go get a socket and a ratchet. I'm not sure what that is. Tape, I think. Alright. I don't honestly know what the torque spec is, if anything, on that. Grab the sandpaper, clean this up a bit. It's not bad. Clean up this side too, even though I don't know if it has to be on there. That side actually looks brass instead of copper. But okay. Now we've got this wheel, washer, spacer. Huh. I can see where that piece was contacting, but it looks to be clean enough. Maybe I should put this all together. Oh, that appears. Yeah, there we go. With this, I'll try and put this all in here at the same time. Maybe that's not going to work. I'm not for sure. Let's see if we are even remotely close to starting these fasteners. looks okay. Remember, these were just snug. They weren't real tight, because I think there's a little bit of spring in there. And that seems to be correct. So before we put the horn button on, we're gonna give this a quick test. See if it works. Go hook up the battery and I'll be right back. All right. It works, but it's a little bit louder than it was. My kids love that. So next step with the horn, I guess, will be pull them apart under the hood and see if we can't rebuild them or clean the contacts. It's definitely a lot louder. So I think cleaning the contacts under here, I think it helped it. So double check and make sure that the turn signals still work. Good to go. So now it's pretty dirty up inside of here. I'm just going to clean this out while I've got to spray some cleaner in there, get in it with a brush, and then we'll put the horn button back on, and this one's complete. So until next time.